first of all, Atlantic City is the third most affordable beach town in the U.S. The median list price for a home in Atlantic City is about $240,000.
Imagine sipping coffee on your balcony, the ocean breeze in your face, and realizing you didn't need to sell your left kidney just to afford it. Most people think beach life in America means million-dollar price tags and sky-high rent. But how do these towns pull it off? And what are the real trade-offs hiding behind that sunset view? Deerfield Beach, Florida. This is where South Florida's Sunshine Savings Account kicks in. You want white sand, palm trees, and turquoise water, but you'd rather not auction off your retirement just to get a zip code. Here's the workaround. Median home price hovers around $280,000, which is literally half of what you'd pay 20 minutes south in Fort Lauderdale. And yes, condos under $200,000 are still out there if you don't mind a little 1980s flavor. Rent? About $2,000 for a two-bedroom steps from the sand, which for Florida is as close as you'll get to a bargain bin by the sea. Now, the lifestyle perks are hard to argue with. Picture yourself in January, barefoot, coffee in hand, watching the sun climb over the Atlantic from your balcony, while your friends up north are scraping ice off windshields. The beach here is less Miami glitz, more locals jogging at sunrise, and families fishing off the pier. You're not fighting tour bus crowds or dodging influencer ring lights. It's quieter, with a real neighborhood feel, and the water's just as blue as those pricier postcards. But let's be honest, paradise comes with a few trade-offs. Nightlife is limited. If you're hoping for wild clubs or rooftop bars, you'll need to drive south. And the traffic on I-95? Let's just say you'll get plenty of time to work on your podcast backlog. Still, for anyone who dreams of waking up to ocean breezes without a Miami mortgage, Deerfield Beach is the Florida hack. Would you trade a little nightlife for a daily sunrise over the sand and a mortgage that doesn't require a GoFundMe? Atlantic City, New Jersey. Boardwalk life on a budget, with the volume cranked to 11. Forget what you know about beachfront sticker shock. Here, the median home price hovers around $230,000. That's not a typo. You could pay less for a condo near the ocean than you would for a broom closet in Brooklyn. Rentals, think $1,200 to $1,500 a month. And that's for a place where you can actually hear the waves, not just your upstairs neighbor's bowling league. But Atlantic City isn't just about cheap digs. It's a place where the party never really stops. The famous boardwalk stretches for 4 miles, lined with neon, casinos, and enough funnel cake to fuel a small army. There's always something happening, whether it's a Tuesday night blackjack tournament or a pop-up concert that lasts until sunrise. If you like peace and quiet, you might want to invest in some earplugs, or maybe a different zip code. Sure, the nightlife can get out of hand. And yes, crime is a real concern in some neighborhoods. But you're living steps from the sand for less than what most people drop on rent in Manhattan. Miles of beach, a boardwalk that's legendary, and a cost of living that lets you save for more than just your next electric bill. Would you trade a little chaos for a front row seat to the Atlantic? And a mortgage that doesn't require a winning lottery ticket? Port Richey, Florida, where the Gulf meets the working class wallet. This isn't your classic sugar sand postcard, but if you dream of a cheap house with a dock and a fishing boat out back, Port Richey is the boater's bargain you've been searching for. Median home price? Around $230,000, with plenty of listings dipping under $200,000. If you don't mind a little fixer-upper action. Rentals hover between $1,200 and $1,400 a month, sometimes less if you're willing to skip the granite countertops and settle for a little 1980s linoleum. But let's not sugarcoat it. Port Richey isn't winning any beauty contests for its beaches. This is more river meets Gulf than white sand paradise. You'll find more boat launches than sunbathers, and the local vibe is all about the water, fishing, kayaking, and sunset cruises, not volleyball tournaments or umbrella drinks. The town's waterfront bars serve $4 beers, not overpriced mojitos, and the regulars are just as likely to show up in flip-flops as they are to arrive by skiff. Still, picture this. You're sitting on a weathered dock, casting a line as the sun drops into the Gulf, pelicans gliding past, and your mortgage is so reasonable you can actually afford to own a boat instead of just dreaming about it. Sure, there are pockets where crime creeps a little higher, and if you want powdery sand between your toes, you'll need to drive a bit south. But for anyone who'd rather have a cheap house and a fishing license than a penthouse and a parking pass, Port Richey is where the real Florida bargains still live. Would you trade a little grit for a backyard sunrise over the water and a payment that leaves cash for bait and beer? Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The place where every day feels like a vacation. Whether you're ready for it or not, forget the idea that you need a lottery win to live here. Median home price? Around $320,000. Condos? Plenty under $200,000. If you're okay with a little 90s wallpaper and a view of the parking lot. Rent for a 2-bedroom? Usually somewhere between $1,200 and $1,600, and that's for a spot where you can actually hear the waves, not just the neighbors' karaoke nights. But here's the thing about Myrtle. It's not just a beach, it's an engine. 60 miles of shoreline, neon-lit mini-golf, seafood buffets that never end, and a boardwalk that's always buzzing. The upside? You get the kind of entertainment most towns only dream about. Comedy clubs, live music, and enough pancake houses to fuel a small army. You want a show? You got it. You want to fish off a pier, then walk to a tiki bar for shrimp and grits? That's Tuesday. Of course, there's a catch. Living in Myrtle Beach means you're sharing paradise with about 20 million tourists a year. That means traffic jams in July, lines at the grocery store that make you question your life choices, and the occasional spring break crowd treating your local beach like a theme park. Locals get creative. Grocery runs at 6 a.m., dinner before 4:30, and a deep knowledge of every back road in Horry County. Still, picture this. You clock out, grab takeout from a seafood shack, and walk the sand at sunset while the boardwalk lights flicker to life. Sure, you might have to dodge a few segways and the occasional bachelor party, but you're living where others vacation, and your mortgage still leaves room for a fishing rod and a few rounds of putt-putt. Would you swap a little peace and quiet for a year-round carnival at your doorstep? And a condo by the ocean that doesn't eat your retirement whole? Surfside Beach, South Carolina, the quieter cousin who prefers sweet tea on the porch to neon lights and spring break chaos. If Myrtle Beach is a year-round carnival, Surfside is the family retreat where golf carts outnumber convertibles and everyone waves, even if they don't know your name. Median home price? Around $475,000, so you'll pay a premium for peace and quiet. But that buys you a front porch, a patch of grass, and a street where the loudest thing at night is the sound of sprinklers. Rentals run from about $1,400 for a basic 2-bedroom up to $2,600 if you want to stretch out, but most folks land somewhere in the middle. Enough left over for a weekly shrimp basket and a round of mini golf. This is a town that takes its golf carts seriously. Locals cruise to the beach, the park, even the grocery store. No need to fight for a parking spot or worry about sand in your car. It's all about slowing down, waving to neighbors, and letting the ocean breeze do the heavy lifting. The beach here is wide and clean. The vibe is relaxed, and you won't find a thumping nightclub or a rooftop bar in sight. If you want live music, it's probably happening at a church picnic or the town gazebo, not a velvet-roped VIP lounge. Picture this. You're on your porch swing, sweet tea in hand, watching the sunset while families roll by on golf carts loaded with beach chairs and coolers. The kids ride bikes, the dogs nap in the yard, And the only real decision is whether to walk to the pier or fire up the grill. Sure, you'll pay more than you would in Myrtle Beach for the privilege, but you get a small-town feel with the Atlantic just a few blocks away, and a community that feels more like a neighborhood than a tourist attraction. Would you trade a little nightlife and a lower mortgage for quiet nights, friendly waves, and a golf cart with your name on it? Ocean Springs, Mississippi, where the Gulf Coast borrows a little Key West attitude and throws in a discount. Imagine oak trees draped over sidewalks, murals on every corner, and a main street that feels more like an indie movie set than a retirement brochure. Median home price? Around $258,000, which is creeping up but still a steal compared to most coastal towns. Rent lands between $1,000 and $1,300, enough left over for a monthly art crawl and a few rounds of shrimp tacos. The cost of living here runs about 20% below the national average, which means your dollar stretches as far as the beach at low tide. The real draw? Ocean Springs is an arts colony at heart. Local potters, musicians, and painters keep the place humming. It's the kind of town where you can wander from a gallery to a coffee shop, then catch live music on a Tuesday without fighting for parking or paying cover. But there's a catch. Job options are slim, and hurricane insurance can cost as much as your car payment. Still, picture this. You're sipping iced coffee on a breezy porch, listening to a street musician, and your rent is so low you can actually afford to buy art instead of just admiring it. Slide west and you hit Corpus Christi, Texas, a city where the Gulf meets big city grit and tacos are a basic food group. Median home price? About $230,000. Rent falls in the $1,000 to $1,300 range, which is almost suspiciously reasonable for a place with both beaches and decent surf. Here, you get Padre Island's waves, a working harbor, and sunsets that turn the sky orange behind oil rigs. The local scene is all about balance. You can grab $2 breakfast tacos, catch a hooks game, and still make it to the beach before sunset. The trade-off? Parts of the coastline are more industrial than Instagram. Hurricanes are a fact of life, and traffic can snarl up faster than a fishing line in a headwind. Still, picture this. You're standing on the seawall with a bag of fresh tortillas, watching surfers carve up the break while shrimp boats head out. Your mortgage doesn't require a second job, and the biggest decision is whether to hit the taqueria or try your luck with the fishing pole. Would you trade a little refinery skyline and the occasional storm for a Gulf front lifestyle, and a payment that leaves you enough for tacos, art, and maybe even a kayak? Rockport, Texas, where the Gulf Coast gets a little artsy, a little salty, and a lot more affordable than you would expect. Median home price here? About $316,000, but you can still snag a classic bungalow for under $250,000 if you are quick with your offer, or just really good at ignoring 1970s wallpaper. Rent floats between $1,200 and $1,500, which leaves enough in your pocket for a kayak, a fishing pole, and probably a few pieces of local art. This is a town that feels like it was built for porch sitting and pelican watching. The vibe is pure small-town Gulf. Think fishing boats bobbing in the harbor, galleries tucked between seafood shacks, and sunsets that turn the bay every shade of orange. The local art scene is not just a tourist brochure promise, it is woven into daily life. You will find murals on downtown walls, pottery studios in old cottages, and a monthly art walk that draws everyone from retirees to weekenders with paint on their jeans. But Rockport is not just for the canvas crowd. The fishing here is legendary, and fresh-caught snapper is more common than traffic jams. The pace moves at the speed of a pelican glide, slow, steady, and with just enough breeze to remind you why you left the city. Still, picture this. You are biting into a fish taco so fresh you saw the boat come in, salt on your skin, And the only thing louder than the gulls is the laughter from the next table. Would you trade a little big city buzz for a life where your neighbors know your dog's name, and your mortgage leaves room for a boat and a gallery membership? Pascagoula, Mississippi, where beach life comes with a blue-collar handshake and a mortgage that looks like a typo. Median home price? Around $150,000. That's not just cheap for the Gulf Coast. It's the cheapest true beach town left in America. Rent hovers between $800 and $1,200, so your monthly payment might cost less than your last family phone plan. This isn't a town built on tourist traps or art walks. Pascagoula runs on shipyards, fishing boats, and the kind of neighbors who'll lend you a lawnmower before they know your last name. The economy is more hard hat than happy hour. Think shipbuilding, refineries, and the hum of industry instead of tiki bars and souvenir shops. But the trade-off is real. A tight-knit, working-class community where folks stick around, not just pass through. Picture this. 3 blocks from the water, you're grilling on your porch as a salty breeze rolls in. Kids ride bikes down the block. And the biggest local drama is whether the fish are biting or the Saints are winning. The sandy beaches are walkable. The parks fill up for free concerts, and you don't need a trust fund to own a house with palm trees out front. Sure, there's no luxury spa, and you'll hear the occasional train whistle, but the sense of community is stronger than the Wi-Fi signal. Would you trade a few fancy amenities for a real front porch, neighbors who know your dog's name, and a mortgage that doesn't require a second job? In Pascagoula, you can still live the beach town dream without needing a lottery ticket or a moving truck full of cash. Westport, Washington, the wild card of the Pacific Northwest coast. Here, the dream isn't palm trees and year-round tans. It's foggy mornings, salt air that smells like driftwood, and the kind of wild shoreline where you're more likely to see a surfer in a wetsuit than a sunbather with a margarita. Median home price sits around $310,000, but you'll spot listings dipping below $250,000. If you don't mind a little rain on your roof and the occasional seagull argument outside your window. Rentals? They're out there, usually between $1,100 and $1,500. But you'll need to act fast, because inventory's about as scarce as a sunny January. This isn't your classic beach town with tiki bars and neon. It's razor clam country. Locals gear up with rubber boots and headlamps, digging in the sand as the Pacific wind howls, hoping for a bucket full of dinner. Surf culture here means braving 50-degree water and waves that can double overhead in winter. The town's jetty break is legendary, and the surf shops are stocked with more neoprene than sunscreen. Picture this. You're standing on the windswept dunes, coffee steaming in your glove-clad hands, watching a handful of diehards paddle out while gulls wheel overhead. There's a lighthouse on the horizon, fishing boats bobbing in the harbor, and the only soundtrack is the crash of waves and the distant hum of a crab boat heading out before dawn. The trade-off? It's cold, it's rustic, and you'll want to invest in a good rain jacket. But if you'd rather have a front row seat to nature's show and a mortgage that doesn't require selling your classic car collection, Westport is proof you don't need Miami sunshine to live the beach life. Would you swap a little warmth for wild Pacific mornings, fresh-caught clams, and a house that leaves room in the budget for a surfboard or two? A median home in Pascagoula, Mississippi, still lists for around $150,000, less than half the national average. This documentary has shown that beach living doesn't always demand a luxury budget. From Atlantic City's $1,200 rents to Rockport's bungalows under $250,000, verified real estate data and census records confirm these towns remain outliers in a high-cost housing market. But the trade-offs are clear. Many options come with higher storm risk, fewer job opportunities, or limited amenities, as local government reports and insurance filings document. some questions remain. How long will these prices hold as remote work expands and climate risks evolve? Public data shows some towns are already seeing price pressure. Still, the evidence is undeniable. For those willing to weigh the pros and cons, America's coastline holds affordable communities where beach life is possible without millionaire resources. That's not a promise, just the numbers as they stand today.